All right, well, thank you so much for the introduction, John. And as we mentioned, if you are looking to learn 10 things about flying with ForeFlight, then you've joined the right webinar. So let's jump right in. Move that guy out of the way. So today we'll take a few minutes to chat about some of what I like to call ForeFlight's shiny new features. Then we'll tackle the 10 things you're all eager to learn about. Then we'll save a few minutes at the end for a question and answer session. So let's go on to the new things. One of the recent big additions to ForeFlight is a digital pilot logbook. ForeFlight Logbook is seamlessly integrated right into the app. So I won't go through a fully detailed how-to for the logbook here, but I'll run through some of the key features to give you a sense of its capabilities. So Logbook lives in the More view, and then Logbook will be one of the options listed on the left. When it comes to recording flights, there are 3 different ways I can add flight time: manually, automatically, or in bulk. For manual entry, I can add a flight by tapping on the plus button in the upper right corner and then tap New Flight. This opens a new flight entry form. I can then type in the information for each field. In the Logbook Settings menu, I can customize which fields I want to show or hide. For example, if I'm not flying for hire, then I may not want to see duty time fields in my flight entry form. I can also create custom fields to really customize the type of information that I want to log. And I have lots of flexibility in the types of fields that I can create. The second way I can enter flights is the auto draft entry method. This method uses ForeFlight's track logs to automatically create a draft entry for me to review, edit, and approve. And you may be asking yourself, well, what if I'm already using another digital pilot logbook system, or I have a spreadsheet that I use already to record my flight time? Well, in that case, you can use ForeFlight Web to do a bulk import. You go to plan.foreflight.com and log in using the same login you use for the ForeFlight app. When I log into ForeFlight Web, I will see 2 tabs at the top of the screen: Map and Logbook. I'll tap on Logbook, and in this view, I have 3 more options in the subnav: Reports, Import, and Export. And we'll go through a quick look at each of these views. But back to the bulk import question. So I'm in the import view, and I have the option I can drag and drop my existing spreadsheet from my desktop into this window, or ForeFlight provides a formatted spreadsheet template that I can download. Using the ForeFlight template as a column guide, even for my existing spreadsheet, helps ensure the smoothest import experience. I'll take a moment here to mention some resources. If you hit any snags with this process, we have a video playlist on our YouTube channel. It includes a detailed how-to video on doing the bulk import process. The short link is there, bit.ly/logbook-import. And I'd also like to throw a spotlight on a very helpful article written by our lead logbook developer. And if you're thinking about, allergies here in Texas, disagreeing with me tonight, apologize for that. If you're thinking about how to make that cutover from paper to digital in your logbook, this article I think will help you think through that plan and that strategy. And the short URL you'll see there, foreflight.com/logbook-catchup, and that's as in catch-up logbook entries and not the condiment. And lastly, please don't be shy. Reach out to our pilot support team for help. They can readily spot any issues they see with a spreadsheet and help you through that process. The next view we'll look at is reports. There are currently 2 types of reports I can access: a flight experience report and an FAA 8710 report. The Flight Experience Report exports total times based on aircraft type, category, characteristic like complex or high performance, engine type, and more. I can also choose the time frame I want. Last 30 days, 90 days, 6 months, 12 months, or I can select a custom date range. And as an aircraft owner, running that experience report for the last 12 months provides a great guide for filling out my annual insurance form. The handy 8710 report means no more digging back through a paper logbook to piece together hours for your airman certificate or rating application. This report generates a neatly organized table, as you can see, of the flight hours that serve as a guide for filling out the application. And the report is formatted just like the actual form, so it makes it really easy to just copy over the data. I can view and print both the 8710 and flight experience reports from within the app as well as on the web, as you can see here. And finally, the export view. Put simply, your data is yours. Anytime you want a full export of all your logbook data, you can do that here. ForeFlight Logbook also has a digital endorsement feature. CFIs and examiners can sign the logbook right from the app using a stylus or even a finger. In addition, there are over 60 preloaded endorsement templates. In this example, I've selected the solo flight endorsement from the lookup list. The properly formatted endorsement text is preloaded in the description, and from here the entry can be edited as needed. My instructor can then follow the prompts to add their signature. And then once the signature is approved, the entry is locked, and like all of my other flight entries, it's securely stored in the ForeFlight cloud, and I can access it across all of my devices. Okay, last thing on ForeFlight Logbook is the ability to add unlimited photos. I think this is a pretty neat way to satisfy that sentimental aspect of recording your journey as a pilot. Attaching photos adds another dimension to logging flights in the digital world. And another idea is to use the photos for recording visual squawks. The other new thing I would like to briefly touch on is ForeFlight connectivity. So lots of folks are getting serious about ADS-B mandate purchase decisions, and obviously the aviation apps that you use are a part of that decision. We recently announced further integration with Garmin and their GTX 345 ADS-B transponder solution, and we're also thrilled to announce phase 1 of our Avenite integration with the IFD 540 and 440 avionics. Mobile connectivity is the wave of the future, so ForeFlight will no doubt continue to add more integrations. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's dig into the 10 things you came here to learn about. First up is downloads. Our most frequently asked questions often include questions about downloads. So let's dig into what we need to know here. Before I go flying, I need to download to my iPad all the charts and maps that I want to access while in flight. Otherwise, yikes, I might see the gray grid where my chart is supposed to be. Let's walk through how to avoid that. Like Logbook, the Downloads Manager lives in the More view. And on the top left, I'll tap Downloads. Immediately to the right, I see a list of georegions. And in today's example, I'll work with the United States. I'll tap on the line that says United States, which drills down into this view. Now we can break this view down into 2 main sections. The top is the type of data. The top is the type of data that I want to download. VFR charts, IFR charts, terminal procedures, etc. The bottom is the list of states that I want those chart types for. I tap on each state that I want to download, and the yellow highlight means it is selected. When I'm done selecting all my states, I'm almost there, but not quite. To seal the deal, I need to navigate back to the main Downloads view. So I'll tap the Downloads back arrow at the top of the United States view, and it brings me back to the main Downloads Overview screen. But this time, my download button is highlighted green, indicating that I now have downloads available for all the states and regions I just selected. I tap Download, and ForeFlight is now off and running, downloading the charts and maps that I've selected. These selections will then receive updates every 28 days per that standard AIRAC cycle. And ForeFlight delivers updates using what we call Delta downloads. Delta downloads only delivers the what's changed data each month. And this has resulted in a 70 to 90% reduction in downtime, or sorry, not downtime, download time, as well as a significant decrease in the storage footprint during the data cycle changeover period. So it's that period of time when you may have 2 cycles worth of data living together on your iPad for a few days. Now, Downloads has a best friend whose name is PAC. And this is a bit of a teaser because I'm going to talk more in more detail about PAC when we get to thing number 8. So let's put PAC on the back burner for now. Thing number 2, customizing app settings. So ForeFlight has a number of settings that you can use to customize your app experience. And today I'm going to highlight 4 of these settings. Just like Downloads, most of the app settings live in the More view. First, let's talk about extended centerlines. Extended centerlines look like this and give me a clear depiction of which runway is which, especially when approaching a situation like we have here at Santa Fe with multiple runways pretty evenly spaced. The enlarged runway number markings will give me that added bit of confidence that I'm lined up for the correct runway. Oops. I have one setting for extended center lines, and that's an on-off switch. Conveniently, I can also access this on-off toggle in the map settings menu. And so I've set us up for a nice segue here, because the next 2 app settings I'm going to talk about are distance rings and track vector. So distance rings look like this. Distance rings display 3 concentric rings with markers around my aircraft's current position. The rings give me added situational awareness by providing a 360-degree view of the time or distance between my aircraft location and the location of other things on the map, like terrain, obstacles, airports, weather, and other hazards. I have 2 settings for distance rings, the on-off switch and then a ring style setting. When I tap into the distance ring style, I see that I can set the rings to represent either a distance or time value. Great for keeping the time value is great for keeping tabs on making that 10 minutes out call to the FBO, for example. Next up is track vector. Track vector is similar to distance rings, but instead of a ring, it is a line that extends from the front of my aircraft position marker. Again, similar to distance rings, track vector length can represent a time or distance value, and I can choose whatever suits me for that particular flight. So to recap, once I have my settings in place for distance rings or track vector, I can easily turn these features on and off using the settings menu right on the maps view. All right, the final setting we'll talk about in this number 2 thing is the settings for Hazard Advisor. Hazard Advisor is a terrain-based map layer that dynamically colors terrain and obstacles red or yellow based on their height relative to my aircraft position. I have 2 settings that allow me to customize when the hazard coloring is shown. The first setting, Hazard Advisor, allows me to set the GPS ground speed at which Hazard Advisor comes alive. When I am below that set speed and have the Hazard Advisor layer turned on, my map will be placarded with a message like this. So in this example, Hazard Advisor disabled below 30 knots. The other setting is hazard altitudes. Setting the hazard altitude controls the relative height at which the hazard coloring is shown. The way this reads is if I select normal, then any terrain or obstacles within 1,000 feet of my aircraft will turn yellow, and then red within 100 feet. So if you're flying a low altitude mission, we give you some options here, like flying a helicopter, for example. You can select a lower setting so that you aren't unnecessarily distracted by the world turning red at that sustained low altitude. Okay, on to number 3. Let's talk about the taxi chart. There's lots of taxi chart features that I can use for pre-flight planning as well as during my flight that give me better situational awareness and access to information without having to leave the plates view. So let's take a look. First up is NOTAM Advisor. ForeFlight does the work to filter only the relevant NOTAMs for a published procedure or airport location. I simply tap the NOTAM badge on the taxi chart and I can scroll through the NOTAMs that are applicable to that airport. Next up is Auto Show Taxi. So a really helpful feature, especially when I'm arriving at an unfamiliar airport. Auto Show Taxi is a hands-free feature, meaning that when I land and decelerate below 40 knots, the taxi chart for that airport will automatically open in the plates view without my input. If I have a Pro or Pro Plus plan, then I have georeferenced taxi charts, and I will also see my aircraft position right on the taxi chart. I can also go one step further with this feature with the Show Taxi on Map setting. If I want to keep my track up view, for example, that I was using in the en route phase over on the moving map, Show Taxi on Map setting automatically opens the taxi chart right on the maps view like this. So in this scenario, the airport diagram is displayed like our plate on map feature. So without changing away from the maps view, I can see where I'm taxiing and where the FBOs are. Another thing I can do on the taxi chart is draw or trace my taxi route. I tap the pencil icon in the navigation bar along the top. Then I can use my finger or a stylus to trace out my taxi route. As I'm taxiing, ForeFlight will also give me visual and audio alerts as I approach and enter a runway to help me prevent a runway incursion. Back in the settings view, I have options to turn these visual and audio alerts on or off. So with a Bluetooth capable headset like Lightspeed or Bose connected to the iPad, I can hear the audio alerts through my headset. Or hopefully you don't have that embarrassing moment on a commercial flight when Miss ForeFlight lets everyone in the cabin know there's a runway. The last thing I'll mention about taxi charts is that ForeFlight also produces our own taxi charts for airports that don't have an FAA diagram. FAA only charts approximately 700 airports. ForeFlight is filling the gap with over 2,800 additional taxi charts. And all of the taxi chart features that we just looked at also work with the ForeFlight taxi charts. All right, moving right along here to number 4. And let's take a look at ForeFlight's comprehensive FBO directory. So this starts as a bit of an extension of the taxi chart features we just discussed. I can view FBO markers right on the taxi chart. This makes it so easy to get oriented and know exactly where I need to taxi after I land. The button to show or hide FBO markers is in the top nav bar, and this is in the plates view. When I tap on a marker, I can view lots of information about the FBO, including fuel prices, services and amenities. Some FBOs have also added photos to their listing, so I can see exactly what that location is going to look like. I can also submit comments about my experience that other pilots can view. If I'm on my iPhone, the phone numbers are all live links. I can tap the phone number for the FBO and it launches my phone app, So I can easily call up and ask about a crew car or make a reservation. And as a side note, the FBO directory can also be accessed in the airport's view. So I tap on the FBO's button in the upper right, and I can access the same directory listing view as we saw on the taxi chart. Also on the maps view. So for example, I can turn on the fuel layer, tap on a price marker, and the app will jump right to the FBO listing in the popover. ForeFlight makes it really easy to access information I need in multiple ways, depending on where I am in the app. Okay, thing number 5, Map Touch. This is a good one. So Map Touch allows me to show and hide chart legends right on the maps view. So let's walk through how to do this. Open the Map Settings menu, which is the cog icon, and scroll down to Map Touch Action. And I'm presented with 3 options, and I'm going to choose Bring Chart to Front with Legends. And when I go back to looking at the VFR sectional layer, I'll then see the chart legend overlaid. And then where there's a chart overlap, I simply tap anywhere on the overlap to cycle through those overlap charts. So in this example route from Kansas City to St. Louis, here's the Kansas City sectional, and I tap the map, and it automatically cycles to St. Louis. Let's do a quick replay on that. So Kansas City, tap the map, and then it automatically brings up St. Louis. All right, so from there I can pinch and zoom as normal to read the information I need. And this also works for IFR high and low on route charts. All right, here it is, procedure preview number 6. This feature has been out there for a while, but I still talk to folks at events that have not seen it before. So I'll do a quick run through of it here. And this is a great feature for both VFR and IFR flyers, and we'll take a look at an example for each. I start by tapping Procedure in the upper right corner of the route editor. In this example, if I'm planning to fly VFR, then I'll select Traffic Pattern. Based on the current METAR, the best wind runway will be flagged. So in this example, I'll tap runway 7. Then based on my planned route and the direction from which I'm coming into the pattern for that runway, the best side options are flagged as well. So I'll select to do a midfield entry. I then tap Add to Route, and the waypoints I see in the preview are then added to my route and navlog. So now I have an aiming point for those hazy days when it may take getting in a little closer to gain sight of the runway, and flying for that point gives me confidence that I'm setting up for a perfect pattern entry. It's a similar process for an IFR plan. In this example, I can walk through the graphical depiction of departures, arrivals, and approaches to quickly and easily build out my route. So instead of having to flip through each SID or star, manually filter down, or even digitally swiping through a digital binder, which ones apply to my route, with Procedure Preview, I can immediately see which ones I need to hone in on. And I can make my selection from the list on the left, or I can tap right on that graphical preview. When I tap Add to Route, all of the waypoints are automatically added to my navlog. And it's the same process for selecting the approach. So Procedure Preview allows me to quickly add all of the waypoints for published procedures to my route. Okay, number 7 thing is filing ICAO. Later this year, the FAA is planning to phase out the FAA domestic plan format and replace with the ICAO form for all US VFR and IFR domestic flight plans. So ForeFlight's already equipped to handle the ICAO format, so you can start getting familiar with it now. From the File and Brief view, I can tap on the flight I want to file. And then, pardon me, and then in the Form Type field, I'll select ICAO. Now the minimum fields that I need to add to my aircraft profile, and this is for most GA flights, to satisfy the ICAO requirements are some equipment codes, your surveillance or ADS-B equipment, and wake turbulence. I can add each of these settings to my aircraft profile right from the flight plan form. I tap on the aircraft, then the little blue eye with the circle around it. Then tap into each of the equipment fields to make my selections. For the equipment, transponder, surveillance equipment, wake turbulence. For most GA aircraft, it's light, under 15,500 pounds. From there, I can complete my flight plan form as usual. On a side note, I can also update my aircraft profiles from the More and then Aircraft. Any edits I make here or via the flight plan form all save to the same profile. So this is a very simple overview of what you can expect when you switch over to the ICAO flight plan format for most general aviation aircraft. It can get a little complicated depending on the aircraft you fly. So our regulatory consultant, John Collins, wrote up a helpful article on the subject. There's also another great resource from our friends at Sporty's on their iPad Pilot News website. And the links are there. And if you don't have time to write these down, as John said, this will be recorded and you can come back to this after the event tonight. Okay, bonus tip. Since we're talking about filing flight plans, I'd like to slip in a little bonus tip here on Graphical Briefing. So Graphical Briefing takes all the standard FAA prescribed flight briefing elements, same as if you call 800 weather brief, and generates a translated version with graphics for better comprehension. Briefing is neatly organized into chapters, and you can tap through each of these major sections to dig into the details. Graphical briefing format can be turned on or off in the settings view. When I'm ready to run a briefing, I simply tap the brief button, take a sip of coffee, and the result includes depictions like this. This example of the TAFs view displays familiar color coding for flight conditions, just like I would see in other areas of the app. In addition, the relevant part of the TAF based on my planned passing time is highlighted for me. I can also toggle between coded and plain text. After I file my flight plan, I will receive an email copy of the briefing, and the record of it is also stored on the ForeFlight server. So if anyone asks, there is a timestamped digital record of the briefing I received. Thing number 8, it's a set of best practices I'd like to ask ForeFlight pilots to consider. Your iPad is like any other aircraft system and should be part of your pre-flight checklist. We recommend adding these 3 items to your checklist. So number 1, check for and be aware of any software updates, both from ForeFlight and from Apple. It's probably not a good idea to do a major update minutes before you take a flight. For iOS updates, we distribute the all clear message via a notification to your iPad and iPhone, and also on our blog and through social media. And Sporty's also has a green light program that you can follow on their iPad Pilot News website. The second item, make sure all of your devices are charged up and ready. Have a personal minimum around how low of a battery level you're willing to fly with. As a rule of thumb, A lot of the corporate flight departments and fleet operators that we work with set a minimum of 75% charge on the iPad. We also recommend carrying a spare portable USB battery pack. They're not that expensive, and they easily slip into your pocket or a flight bag. In fact, I think Sporty sells them. And finally, make sure you're caught up on your charts and data updates. We already talked quite a bit about managing downloads. Now, as promised, let's talk about PAC. And I apologize, I had a little slide glitch there. All right. So with PAC, say I've planned a trip outside of my normal area, and I'm going to need some charts that I don't have downloaded yet. PAC makes it really easy to check and make sure that I have all the current information. When I'm finished planning my route, I'll tap the suitcase icon in the route editor. PAC analyzes my route by looking at a 50 nautical mile wide corridor, and that's 25 nautical mile either side of my planned route, and 100 nautical mile in diameter around my departure and destination points, and presents all the missing data, if any, not currently downloaded to my iPad. PAC will also include the latest weather reports and NOTAMs for access in flight. I can tap to download each line separately, or tap the PAC button at the lower right, and then ForeFlight will start downloading everything. Now I'm all packed. It's good practice to check PAC right before leaving my internet connection, just to ensure I have the latest weather reports and NOTAMs to refer to while in flight. And as a side note, there's not a special place to access the PAC data. The charts and maps just show up in all the usual places. And you think of the PAC data as kind of like a trip kit. Since it is temporary, it will automatically drop away when it expires at the next data cycle. Final thing I will add to the pre-flight checklist consideration is to ask, what is your backup plan? Your individual ForeFlight subscription allows you 2 iPads, 1 iPhone, and an iPod Touch. So as a Part 91 flyer who's gone paperless, if you have an issue with your primary iPad, your backup could be another digital device, or it could be paper. Just make sure that you have a plan. All right. Number 9, Debrief Tools. So obviously flying with ForeFlight and an iPad really can make flight planning easier and more efficient, and our customers tell us over and over how it has really changed the way they fly. But have you considered how ForeFlight can help you after a flight? ForeFlight's track logs, ForeFlight track logs record your flight track, the altitude and speed data, which I can then view in and share from a web page launched from the ForeFlight app. So when I choose a track log, and at the bottom I can tap view on foreflight.com, and it generates a little web link, and it gives me a simple 2D view of my flight track and kind of my flight details at the bottom. But ForeFlight track logs can do a lot more. The industry standard KML or GPX file can be exported to other compatible apps, and I would use my Send To button back on my track log view. I can export to Google Earth for a really cool 3D view of my flight track. Or I can export to an amazing post-flight debrief tool like Cloud Ahoy. Cloud Ahoy is a phenomenal tool for breaking down every phase and aspect of your flight. It's great for your own personal analysis, but it can also enhance the learning process between students and instructors. I can relive my flight from every angle and really learn without relying on only my memory to recall areas where I could improve. There's no formal promotional agreement, just so you know, between ForeFlight and Cloud Ahoy. I just personally want to make you aware of a really great tool. And they do have a free trial period, and recommend you give it a try. Somewhat related to post-flight, or perhaps pre-flight, ForeFlight can be used alongside popular flight simulation systems. So you can not only keep your flying skills sharp, but using ForeFlight along with the simulator gives you practice time to explore app features before you take to the sky. And for more details on how to set up those different systems, I have a short link here. ForeFlight.com/simulator is our support page on that. Okay, last but not least, we made it. Thing number 10. As a ForeFlight pilot, you get so much more out of your subscription than all the things, the features and capabilities that we discussed here today. And we like to keep our plans simple. Each plan comes with one geo-region, US or Canada, and you can add the other for $100 a year. And we have a full breakdown of all the plan features at this URL, foreflight.com/pricing. And not to worry, if you have an existing basic or pro plan, then you can absolutely continue to renew those plans. If you're new to ForeFlight, then we'd love the opportunity to fly with you. You can download the app from the Apple App Store and start a free 30-day trial and give it a try. We hope you like it. Another popular question is, where can I learn more about the app? Other than participating in a live webinar like this, I have some additional resources for you. The first one I'll mention is our Pilot's Guide. You can access our Pilot's Guide online or right inside the app. And I'm going to sneak in another little bonus tip here. I'll take the opportunity to talk about documents. And let's take a look real quick at how to access that Pilot Guide right inside the app. So I'm going to navigate to the Documents view. Then I tap Catalog, the Catalog button in the upper right. And this opens a catalog popover where I can select which documents I want to download to my iPad. For the ForeFlight Pilot Guide, I'll tap on the ForeFlight folder, then on Pilot's Guide to ForeFlight Mobile Line. I know no one likes to read the manual, but I think we do a really good job of keeping ours up to date. Pardon me. It has lots of screenshots, lots of hyperlinks, it's searchable, so I can easily get to the information I need. I can also create bookmarks and use annotations. In addition, the preloaded document catalog contains all kinds of resources like chart supplements. You'll find the fly charts there. There's a ton of FAA flying handbooks, the FAR and AIM. So I never have to buy another paper FAR AIM book. It's included and always up to date with my ForeFlight subscription. And I can also import my own documents. So back to the rest of the Learn More resources. We also have a YouTube channel, if you are not aware. This link will take you right there, foreflight.com/videos. And we have a variety of how-tos and other recorded webinars out there for your viewing pleasure. We also keep our blog up to date with the latest news, lots of articles from our weather scientist, data bulletins, etc. And then if you're not already on our approximately monthly newsletter, we'd love to have you sign up for that. And you can do that on any page of our web. And finally, as always, a reminder that we are on frequency 7 days a week. If you have any questions, if you have suggestions, need help, whatever, shoot us a note, team@foreflight.com. We are not robots. We are real people, real pilots ready to help. And with that, I think we're done, and I'm going to kick it back to John and see what kind of questions we had roll in.
Yeah, thanks, Angela. Great presentation. Lots of stuff there. I know I learned a lot there myself. I do have a number of questions, so I'm just going to fire them at you here, and let me know what you think here.
I'll do my best.
First one we got here is back to the downloads page. Question of, what is the high resolution terrain? What does that mean? It's a pretty decent sized download. So what's that all about?
Yeah, the high resolution terrain layer is what you would see in that hazard advisor layer that we were looking at when we were looking at that app setting. In the maps view, when you go to that drop down, there's a terrain map layer, and that's the layer that's associated with that download.
Okay, great. Here's one I'd never thought of, actually. I think I know the answer, but thought we'd check with you. Is there a way to set the auto taxi to a different speed threshold? This person is saying, I can fly at 40 knots, so is there a way to change that?
Yeah, great question. Currently, no, but that's a good one. I'll take that back to the team.
How about, interesting question here, do you have a preferred flight simulator? Is there one that works better than the others with ForeFlight? Maybe not overall as a flight simulator, but is there one in particular that's a better option for ForeFlight pilots?
You know, they're all good, and the technology has come so far. You know, I hear a lot of folks use X-Plane. That seems to be a pretty popular one. But you know, I think it's worth maybe. I'm not sure if they do like a free trial on any of them, but might be worth taking a spin first.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, Answer. Just in my experience, there's lots of different options. I think a little bit steeper learning curve maybe, but if you're up for that, I think X-Plane has maybe a little more to offer there. Again, it takes a little bit faster computer, a little more learning curve, but a few more options there. Here's a great one. Do you have to have a DUATS account to record the flight briefing, or does ForeFlight now record it for you?
Yes, so ForeFlight will record it for you. So we automatically, if you do not have, I take a step back. So if you have your DUATS credentials entered into ForeFlight, we take that as your preferred filing method, and we'll run it that way. Otherwise, if you don't have that logged in, you don't have to do anything else. We just automatically file through Lockheed, and it's just automatically processed through Lockheed.
Okay, so not a whole lot you need to worry about there.
Yeah, exactly.
What about using track logs from Stratus 2S? You mentioned, Cloud Ahoy and some of the debriefing options that are there. How about doing that with Stratus 2S? How's that work?
So similar process. Stratus is just another method to record the track log. So once the track log is made, then exporting it to the other tools that I talked about is the same. You can either record that track log using the internal, iPad GPS, or if you've got an external, GPS source, or through the Stratus. Same situation. It's kind of two parts. So actually, recording the track log and then exporting it to the tool that you want to look at it in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and the only thing I guess I'd add there is the Stratus is automatically logging it, the last 20 hours of data, so you don't have to manually start and stop it on the Stratus. What you do need to do is upload the data off of the Stratus to your iPad. So that's sort of the additional step there. You'd go to the Stratus, the Stratus status menu there, and go to your track logs from that Stratus status menu, and then you can pick which Stratus logs to pull off. Then once it's off of Stratus and into ForeFlight, like you said, it's just like any other track log. You can send it to the ForeFlight website or to Cloud Ahoy or whatever you want to do. So it's automatic in terms of recording, but it's not automatic in terms of offloading.
Right. So just one little extra step in the middle there.
Couple more since you're still standing. We haven't defeated you yet here, Angela. Got a good one here on when it comes to.
That scares me a little when you got a good one.
I don't think it's something you offer, but it's interesting, concept that maybe you can comment on, if nothing else, an idea for the team. It says in a ForeFlight flight plan, is there a way to change the altitude for different legs? Getting into more sophisticated sort of altitude planning for different legs, especially for maybe turbine aircraft. And kind of related to that, is there a way to label top of descent, top of climb in a flight plan?
Great questions. Currently, no. The short answer. No, that's a great question, and definitely an aspect that we're looking at. So I'll put another tick mark next to that feature vote.
Great. Here's one that actually I'm glad somebody asked, because I get asked this all the time, and I think a lot of people don't know it. How do I delete maps I'm no longer using? So maybe I flew to Oshkosh, but then I really don't need the Wisconsin maps the rest of the year. How do I get rid of those maps that I downloaded and no longer need?
Yeah, so if you recall our discussion on the downloads way back on number one thing, when you are going in to actually select, the yellow highlight select on the states, you have to go back and reverse that process. So if you've planned your flight to Oshkosh and you've gone in and selected Wisconsin outside of using PAC to do that, you have to go back in, deselect it, and then when you're back in the downloads, the main overview view, you can scroll down to any of those Wisconsin line items that are, charts and approaches or whatever for Wisconsin, and you can do the iOS gesture of the swipe left to right, and it will reveal a delete button. So hopefully you can visualize
Yeah,
that.
no, that's
A little hard without a live iPad, but yeah, you just reverse your process of deselecting the state, and then you can go back to the overview page and then swipe delete. Um, Otherwise, you can just wait till the next data cycle, and they'll all drop away.
yeah, and that's a pretty good tip across iOS. That works on a lot of different apps. That sort of swipe from right to left is kind of a good generic delete. So
Mm-hmm.
once you get used to that, you'll start seeing that in lots of apps. Um, can I get a flight briefing, Angela, without actually filing a flight plan? So can I just get a weather brief without actually putting in a flight plan?
You can. You can run that briefing as many times as you want. It's only when you file, then you'll receive that email notification or that email copy of the thing. But up until that point, you can run that briefing as much as you want right inside the iPad.
Great. Two more, and then we'll wrap up here. Another one on track logging. I think you got a lot of folks thinking about that, maybe who don't think about it a lot. Here's one that says, "Does my iPad screen need to be on in order to record my track log? I've lost a few flights because the screen turned off." So maybe talk us through that in terms of, can I turn off the screen if I'm not using it and still be recording the flight, or how's that work?
Yeah, and John, I may ask your help here on the Stratus side. I just can't quite recall. But if you do, yeah, unfortunately, if you do sleep the iPad, it will stop recording. And if I recall correctly, I think that's an iOS thing. Not that I'm trying to throw Apple under the bus, but
No, I think you're right.
it's one of those things.
Yeah, they get really picky when the iPad the screen is off about not letting you pull resources. That's one of the reasons Stratus track log exists, because that really happens on
Yeah,
the Stratus device. So that's independent of the iPad. So that works whether the screen's on or off. That really just needs Stratus to be on. So that is one
yeah,
difference.
that's okay. Cool. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So cool. Good question.
And last question, which I know the answer to, but we've had a couple about, and so I'll let you go ahead and give the official answer, which is, how about non-iOS devices with ForeFlight, in particular Android?
Oh, the Android question. Yeah. Yeah, currently no plans for Android development, but you never know. No, and never say never, I guess. But really, currently no plans or anything to announce there.
Great. Angela, thanks very much, and thanks to everyone who attended tonight. Certainly covered a lot of ground, so appreciate your attention and all your great questions. Again, a reminder that a recording of this webinar will be up at sportys.com/webinars in the next couple of days, so we invite you to check that out. And with that, we'll bid you a very good evening and hope to see you again here on another Sportys webinar soon. Thanks.